Right now, let's visit with Anthony Slam, our risk control specialist, Northland Trucking Risk Control. Welcome back to the show, Anthony.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And in case you haven't met, this is Matt McClellan from Covenant, the pretty big fleet out there. So he's going to listen to our conversation, help me co-host a little bit. And I believe our conversation today is going to be a little bit about speed and space management.
Yeah, hey, for sure. So this is a hugely important subject in the trucking industry, right? And when we talk about this, we're really talking about behaviors relating to speed and space management. And it's important to understand that this doesn't just apply for truck drivers, but this applies to all drivers in general out there. So it's a really important thing to talk about because ultimately we want to reduce our chances of accidents, right?
Of course. So what are some of these behaviors in a more specific way?
Yeah, so think about it, driving becomes second nature to a lot of us, right? We get in the vehicle, we turn on the ignition, and we drive. But there's a lot of vehicles in front of us, behind us, and all different types of things out there on the road. Um, when we talk about truck drivers, we all know the 6-second rule, right? And that's generally the safe stopping distance that it takes for a truck driver to safely stop their vehicle. And keep in mind, there's a lot of factors on the road that affect this. Density of traffic, the speed of traffic, things like that, drivers doing unsafe acts. And we all know this. The average driver out there, they have no idea how long it takes a truck driver to safely stop their vehicle. And so that's why it's really important to talk about this with our drivers and also make sure our drivers are paying attention to these things and also reckless driving out there from other motorists as well.
Well, let's dig in. Aren't truck drivers trained on these factors?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of truck drivers receive some really good training on this. And at Northland Insurance, we love meeting with our customers. We love talking about fleet safety. We cover all aspects of the trucking industry. We talk about flatbed operations, drive-in operations, reefer trailers, everything. And we hear from a lot of our customers that or we hear from a lot of trucking companies in general that they're doing a really good job with providing their drivers that training, and that's crucial. It's huge, and so we really want to emphasize, to truck drivers or to trucking companies to talk about these things with their drivers because it shows your level of commitment to fleet safety, and drivers really appreciate that, right? And it's also important to talk about things such as, the driver's physical needs too, right? Such as, proper rest, proper nutrition, things like that. When we talk about training too, a lot of companies are incorporating what's called defensive driver training, right? National Safety Council puts out a lot of good information on this every year. National Safety Council is a nationwide organization that covers safety for a large variety of industries, including the transportation industry. They have a formal defensive driver program. And a lot of trucking companies will send their drivers through this, especially drivers involved in accidents, right? And these programs are designed to address things that are related to truck-related accidents, right? And talks about things like speed and space management, things that are really important to understand out there, such as improper lane change, improper turning, right of way, things like that. Companies are also talking a lot about distracted driving now. That's a huge topic. Last month
It was
was
just Awareness
Distracted
Month,
Driving
wasn't it?
Awareness Month.
It was just
Yeah,
Distracted
yeah,
Driving Awareness Month.
yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, distracted driving, that really affects your speed and space management, right? It takes attention away from something that from those things that you really want to pay attention to. So a lot of companies out there are really incorporating good safety policies that address distracted driving because they know how much it affects speed and space management.
But like Matt, right? You're driving down the highway. I'm driving down the highway. We control ourselves, right? We can do our best to control ourselves. But what about the other drivers out there that are cutting us off and making dangerous moves?
Outstanding question. Outstanding question. A lot of the times we might hear from our drivers, okay, hey, I'm doing the right thing, but the motorists out there are causing a lot of the accidents, and that can be understandable, right? What we want to communicate to our drivers is that it's important to take responsibility for what you can control, such as your own speed and space management. Really important, okay? Um, Keep in mind, when we talk about speeding, that can also result in a monetary citation from law enforcement, right? Every year, or on a regular basis, trucking companies are always looking at their safer scores under the safety management system. Okay, these are percentages based on vehicle out of service, driver out of service, hazmat. Trucking companies generally want to be below the national average to make sure that they have the best safety posture as possible. And these percentages are based on categories such as unsafe driving, vehicle maintenance, driver fitness, controlled substances, hours of service, that type of thing. And under the category of unsafe driving is where speeding comes into play. All right. So think about it. If you get pulled over for speeding, right, it could open up the door for an hours of service violation or a vehicle maintenance violation, which could possibly be an out of service violation, which is going to take you off the road for a longer duration of time, less time you have to transport your cargo to its destination. And so that's why we always want to emphasize doing the right thing with our drivers, such as good pre-trip inspections, vehicle maintenance, making sure we're following hours of service rules, as well as speeding.
Now, let me ask you something here. So, training. So, I'm thinking back too. This is a callback to our last episode. We were talking about fleet pain points, and the number one rise in fleet pain points was the training of inexperienced drivers. Let me ask you about that. How are fleets training drivers right now, especially if there's some inexperienced ones?
Yeah, really good question. So here's the thing to approach. Here's how we can approach this. Whether we are talking about new drivers or experienced drivers, successful trucking companies know that having those good policies in place is important. Again, it shows your commitment to safety to those drivers. And like we talked about before, with the National Safety Council putting out a defensive drivers program. Also talking about distracted driving. These type of things are really important for drivers, and it goes a long way.
Before I let you go, what message do you have to deliver to your customers or potential customers on this?
Yeah, like I said before, we love meeting with our customers. We love talking about these things. It's what we do at Northland Insurance. We really love talking to customers about fleet safety. We would just encourage them, continue on with your training, continue on with your policies. Make sure you're looking at your safer scores on a regular basis and looking at trends, things like that.
Hey, thank you so much, everyone. Check out Northland Trucking Risk Control. Anthony over here will help you out.
I'm going to take his picture.
Take his picture.
We may give him a call.
Matt.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Matt, hey, it was nice to meet you, Anthony. Matt, say hi, say bye.
See ya.
Take care.
Hey,
Take
nice
care.
to meet you, sir.
Have a great weekend.
All right.